In this video from November 2017, Russian President Vladimir Putin is visiting Syria to inspect Russian troops on the ground. As Syrian President Bashar al-Assad rushes to catch up with him, Assad is held back so that Putin can walk on alone. To many, this moment sent a clear message that Russia was in charge in Syria's civil war. In 2015, Russia waded into Syria's brutal conflict and single-handedly turned the tide in Assad's favor. Since then, Russia has been present at almost every important juncture in the war, from distributing aid to residents to bombing areas held by militants. But Russia's interest in Syria extends beyond its backing of Assad. Its interest is also deeply rooted in Russia's efforts to redevelop the Orthodox Church, a key unifier at home and central to Putin's grip on power. In essence, Russia has a religious interest in Syria. To understand, we have to go back when Assad's father, Hafez al-Assad, was president. In 1957, the elder Assad trained in the Soviet Union, where he learned Russian and how to fly fighter jets. Until his death in 2000, he met with leaders in the Soviet Union and later in Russia. Russia didn't lose the Soviet-era ties after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, but it certainly lost its clout. What we see now under Bashar al-Assad and Putin is a reinvention of that close relationship between the Syrians and the Soviets. On the global stage, Russia is aggressively pursuing its message that it is the savior of the Christian world. Assad, who belongs to a minority Muslim sect, seems to agree. Shortly after Russia entered the Syrian War, Assad said Putin was the only defender of Christian civilization one can rely on. The Christian Holy Lands, of course, include Syria. There are two cities in Syria significant to Russia's Christian history. First, Palmyra, a prominent city during the Roman Empire and home to some of Christianity's oldest churches. Catherine the Great, the influential 18th century Russian leader, often compared herself to Zenobia, the legendary 3rd century queen of Palmyra. She also compared her court in St. Petersburg, then the capital of Russia, to the court of Palmyra. Today, St. Petersburg is still widely known as the Palmyra of the North. A Russian orchestra performed in Palmyra in May 2016. Many saw it as effective propaganda, portraying Russia as a global arbiter of culture. Second, the city of Malula, one of the only places in the world that speaks Aramaic, the language of Jesus. St. Thekla's monastery, an ancient church in Malula destroyed by the Islamic State, has been recently rebuilt by a Russian government-linked veterans charity. Members of the charity have visited Malula regularly. Victory in Syria is part of Russia's plan to be seen as a serious power broker all over the world. Syria is its entrance into the Middle East, but it's also a key part of Russia's rise and prominence. When Russia first got involved in the war, there was little support among Russians for what looked like a costly and messy conflict. It was all too reminiscent of the Soviet Union's disastrous war in Afghanistan in the 1980s. But today, the Syrian war has arguably become part of the cultural makeup of Russia. It has been, without question, already a Russian victory.